Hi everybody, welcome back to my channel. This video is hopefully going to be a video that will really truly help you if you're traveling to Italy and you need to organize for a taxi to take you somewhere. So I will be giving you lots of useful, common, everyday expressions and sentences that you can use immediately if you're in Italy and you need to just catch a cab to go anywhere. Let's look at some options that you might have, okay? So the first thing that you need to do is to know how to find a taxi in Italy. You can call a taxi number, you can search it on Google, or if you look around, many taxis have a number on their side, on the side of the car, so you can call directly that number and you can organize the service. We do have Uber in Italy, but it's a little bit different than what is offered in the other parts of the world. Here, we do not have the same service as a taxi. It's the Uber driving is basically a luxury service because it's a dedicated driver that will come pick you up with a beautiful Mercedes car and will take you wherever you need to go. But it's usually a little bit more expensive, and they have done this because they did not want for Uber to be contrasting or creating problems with the regular taxi drivers. So also in terms of market issues, let's say it that way. Or if you do not know the number and you do not want to use any kind of taxi apps, you can ask a person at the reception in a hotel to call a taxi for you. Or you can go to a taxi stand. So if you are, for example, outside of a train station, outside of an airport, sometimes outside the city, you will have signs telling you that that's a place where taxis will stop. And there's usually a little bit of a queue. You just stand in the queue and you wait for a taxi to pick you up and take you wherever you want. Obviously, if you are in a situation where you are in a hotel, you can also ask the reception to organize a taxi for you. But I think this is a very good way to practice your Italian on the go. So let's look at the first, like the easiest option to call a taxi. So you're in a hotel, you want to go somewhere else, and you are going to ask the reception to organize a taxi drive for you. These are some useful sentences that you can use with the receptionist. I know that most receptionists speak multiple languages and probably will speak your language, but hey, try to do it as an exercise, okay? So you could say, può gentilmente chiamarmi un taxi? Or if you want to be more specific, può chiamare un taxi per 4 persone? But let's say that you found the number of the taxi and you're going to call it yourself. And in this case, you need the taxi like straight away. You could call and say, buongiorno, avrei bisogno di un taxi il prima possibile. Or, buongiorno, potrebbe mandarmi un taxi il prima possibile? So in this case, il prima possibile is the ASAP, so as soon as possible, okay? Or you want to ask them how long will it be for a taxi to get to you? You could say, buongiorno, potrebbe farmi sapere quando sarebbe possibile avere un taxi? Now, these are very formal sentences, okay? Remember, you're speaking to a person that you've never met before, so you're using formal speech. They, on the other side of the phone, could say, certo, dove devo mandare il taxi? And you could reply with the different options, for example, an address. Mi serve in via De Amicis 9. Or mi serve presso Piazza Garibaldi. Or mi trovo al ristorante Pizza Pazza in Corso Roma 3. Now, usually you don't need to say like the city, because if you're calling, it's usually a local phone number, so they know that you're in the area. Okay, you're not going to call the taxi in Rome if you're in Milan, okay? Usually you do not need to say like where you're going, okay? Like pick me up here, I'm going there, because that's an information that you can give later on. But they might ask you for that, or you might want to give more details. So you could say, buongiorno, avrei bisogno di prenotare un taxi per l'aeroporto il prima possibile. Mi trovo in via Solferini 7. Now, these were the situations where you were in a hurry, but if you're not in a hurry, you might want to book the taxi in advance. So you could call the taxi company and you could say, buongiorno, chiamo per prenotare un taxi per il 7 febbraio alle ore 13:30. Or, buongiorno, vorrei prenotare un taxi per domani alle 19. Okay, so the formula basically is you greet them, you say what you need, the day and the time, and usually the location where you want them to pick you up. Okay? If you do not need to call, so you're standing on the sidewalk and you're waiting for a taxi to arrive, you will give the information when you jump physically into the taxi. Now, little bit of a helpful hint here, especially in the Malpensa airport, because I have experience with that. They usually divide the taxi options in two different areas, where you have the ones that will go further away from the province of Varese, so like further away from Malpensa, the ones that will take you to like Milan. And usually those are on one side of the airport, and then you have like the local taxis on the other side. You might want to double check which one you need and ask the taxi driver and tell them where you're going, because they're not usually very happy to pick you up and then you tell them, oh, I have to go like 10 minutes away from here, because the queue of the taxis works first come, first goes. So if you jump into the first one, and the first one is one of those that works Malpensa, Milano, so like a 50-kilometer distance, which for them is like 100 and something euros, and you jump into that taxi and you tell them, oh no, wait, I have to go to Gallarate, which is my hometown 10 minutes away, and that's like a 35 euro ride, they will not be happy, because they will take you to Gallarate and then they will go back in line and they will have to wait again for another person to come. So there's a little bit of a scheme going on here. It's not exactly legal, but sometimes you just go to the taxi driver and you ask them, I need to go to Milan. Can I come in? Devo andare a Milano. Posso venire con lei? Something like that. And they're usually nice and they're like, oh, just go to my colleague, or yes, jump in. So be aware that that situation can happen. They cannot refuse to take you to a location. So once you're in and you tell them you have to go there, they have to take you. Should they say no, you can call the police, and you are completely right to do so, because it's considered public transportation. So they cannot refuse to take a person somewhere. I'm explaining all of this due to personal experience. So let's pretend that you're outside of the airport, you need a taxi. So you need to ask or give information on your taxi drive. You could say, mi può portare al Novotel in centro a Roma? Mi può portare alla stazione dei Pullman? Mi può portare in via Roma 4? So you can use the formula mi può portare as a nice way to say, can you take me? Other good options could be using the verb andare. So you could say vado al Novotel, or devo andare al Novotel, or ho bisogno di andare al Novotel. All of these could be possible good expressions or sentences that you can use to tell the driver where you're headed. Obviously, once you arrive, you will need to pay for the taxi. Okay, here are some useful sentences that you might want to know if you're in this situation. The easy one is quanto le devo, meaning how much do I owe you? So you're at the end of your ride and you need to pay. Quanto le devo? Or this next question you can actually ask beforehand if you need to. Qual è il costo della corsa? So how much is the drive? Corsa can mean many different things. In this specific situation, it means the car ride. Okay, so the time in which you're inside the taxi and the taxi will take you from point A to point B. You might need to ask if you can pay with card or cash, and you can say, posso pagare con carta? Posso pagare in contanti? Or you just tell them how you're going to pay. So you're not going to ask, you're just going to say, la pago in contanti. La pago con la carta. Okay? Contanti, cash. Carta, credit card, debit card, just as long as it's a card. Okay? Now, in Italy, tipping is not required. It's not mandatory. You can do it if you want to, but it's not something that you have to do by the law. If you are very nice and you want to leave a tip, you can say, ecco la mancia. So here is the tip. Or, tenga pure il resto. Tenga pure il resto means keep the change. It implies that you're giving them a tip. Now, you can't always know in advance the exact price of your taxi ride. Why is this? Because it also depends on the traffic. It depends what city you're in, but usually there are some like fares for specific routes. So I don't know, major airport, major city, you have a fixed fare. Train station to the airport, same thing. You can ask before you get into the cab so you can have an idea of how much you're going to spend, okay? So if price is a problem, ask beforehand. For example, you're in Rome, you want to go to the Colosseum, you can say, quanto costa andare al Colosseo? Or, qual è la tariffa per la corsa da qui al centro di Varese? Tariffa means the price, okay? So you're asking for the price of the whole ride from where you are to downtown Varese. Now, I suggest that you prepare your address in advance. If you're not comfortable speaking Italian immediately to the taxi driver, just write the address on a piece of paper so that you know exactly where you're going and you can give the little piece of paper to the driver and he knows exactly where to take you, okay? I mean, talking to the driver is an amazing learning opportunity, but I also understand that if you're in a rush or you're doing something very important and you cannot get lost into the Italian language, you might want to prepare the address in advance. I also suggest that if you have a specific location where you need to be, say the specific location. So the name of the restaurant, the name of the hotel, the name of the museum, okay? The more details you have and you can give to the driver, the more you are sure that they will be able to take you exactly where you need to. Another useful tip, when you're planning to move around Italy, whether it's with your own personal car or with a taxi, always give yourself a lot of margin for traffic. Italian highways can be clogged up with traffic. So Google the destination, look at how long it takes you to go from that place to the other, check the traffic live or a simulation of the time in which you are leaving. Be sure you have enough time to get where you need to be because Italian streets can be really wild, okay? So that's a personal suggestion that I want to give you. Even in smaller cities where you think, oh, the traffic is not going to be as bad as downtown Milan, downtown Florence, downtown Rome, also the small cities can have issues. So double check the time in which you're leaving, the length of your journey. Not only, oh, okay, that's a simulation of 20 kilometers, 50 kilometers. No, like physically go on Google and pretend that you're leaving in that moment and see the traffic situation. It can be bad. I mean, I've had students get into the highway and then realize that the highway is closed and stay stuck in the highway for an hour and a half. So be careful with that. Now, I want to give you some useful things that you could also ask the taxi driver. For example, if you're in a long drive, you might not feel comfortable with the heat, the air conditioning, the music, and so on. So here are a set of useful questions that you can say to the driver if you need to fix something that's not making you feel comfortable. Read them with me. Come si apre il finestrino? Come si chiude il finestrino? Può accendere l'aria condizionata? Può spegnere l'aria condizionata? Può accendere il riscaldamento? Or maybe you're not into music or the radio's bothering you. You can say, può abbassare il volume? Obviously, remember that you're in Italy, so we Italians love to chat. The driver might also ask you things. For example, può allacciare la cintura per favore? So if you haven't buckled up, they might ask you to buckle your seatbelt. Or they might ask you other simple questions like, com'è andata la sua giornata? Da dove viene? And be sure to reply in a way that you can keep up the conversation. But that's a very useful way to start a conversation in Italian and continue it and practice in a real Italian situation. Now, final tip. If you're on the sidewalk and you need to call a taxi, do not wave for them, whistle, throw yourself in the middle of the street. No, we do not do that in Italy. Go to the closest taxi stand or call a taxi. They will not stop, okay? And you risk your life in the crazy Italian traffic. So this was it for today. I hope this will help you if you come to Italy and you need a taxi. Remember, you can download all of this for free by clicking on the link that you find below this video. I will see you next week. Ciao!